I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Welcome back to On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast. I'm Luke Torkelson, your host. To my left, I've got Tyler Greathen.
Yep, that's me.
Our marketing manager, and freshly back from BC, we've got Adam and Brenda Weatherby.
Thanks for allowing us to be your special guest today.
Yeah, you are the special guest, Adam.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome to your podcast. Really glad to have you here today.
Thanks. The commute down the hallway was long.
It was long. It was really long. You had recently a longer commute, though.
Mm-hmm.
So since I've known you, going on 5 years, I think now, you've been talking about like this dream hunt that you've always wanted to do, and you recently got to do it. So I don't want to take any of the thunder, but we want to hear about it.
Sure. Yeah, Brenda and I just got back from British Columbia, where I got to go on my first mountain goat hunt. And so I think ever since hunting my first sheep in 2015, got to hunt Dall sheep in Northern Territory of Canada. And I think ever since then, just being in that high country and the rocks and just the beauty of that Northern Territory, I just thought, and I'd seen... Well, I always thought it'd be cool to hunt a goat. And I remember I was in northern BC on a elk and moose hunt some years ago as well. And I remember flying out with the pilot in his 206, and he goes, "Hey, you want to see some goats?" And he took me up in the backcountry there in northern BC and just flew right by this like sheer rock face. And there's these goats,
White dots,
just like on the side, and I just remember going, those would be so cool to hunt. I don't know how we'd ever get to them, but it would be really fun. I think that's when it kind of solidified me in me, as during that time was like, these would be fun to come up and hunt someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had an opportunity to come up this past summer, and there was maybe an extra spot to go, and you're like, I think I'll take the camera guy Mac, or maybe Luke, you could come and film. And then the next day you're like, psych.
Yeah. So I asked Brenda to come and be my cameraman.
That's a better option, I think, than Mac or I.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a crash course on filming with f-stops.
That's right.
It was basically like, okay, well, take it on every f-stop available, and one of them will be right. So,
It's a trial and error.
it was great.
I
But-
went by Luke's office when he was giving Brenda the training on the camera and the lenses, and he even had a PowerPoint up on the screen.
I had a diagram, like on what an f-stop, like the lower number, the blurry the background's going to be. And, yeah.
Some
It
of the
was
photos
good.
turned out great, so
Yeah.
good job.
Yep. And when you're in BC, you
It all
don't
looks-
have to be a great photographer because it's
So
so
pretty.
That's how.
so
That's what
beautiful.
they say makes a good photographer is they go to good places.
Yes.
That is actually true. Put me on those Nat Geo trips, and I could probably take some good pics, too.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'd never been to Canada, and Adam had been up there hunting quite a few times, so I
Yeah.
begged him, and he
Yeah, it was
allowed
beautiful,
me to go.
and so, knew it was going to be a horseback and just a really cool hunt, and so just knew it would be a fun opportunity. They had one tag available, and so she knew she let me, might have one time said, well, you could hunt the goat.
I was like, yeah, right.
Yeah, sure, honey.
Just going along was
So
great.
she came along, but we knew we wanted some good content from it, while we're up there and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
just the two of us headed on up there.
So, like,
awesome.
timeline when you decided to go on the hunt, when was that in, like, reference
It
to
was right
that?
after show season, like last late winter, early spring. I had an outfitter that I had been in touch with for probably about 3 years. I have a friend who's an outdoor writer who hunted with them years ago, and I said, ideally I'd want to go somewhere in southern BC, because then I'm a pilot, and a lot of people know that, so I could fly my plane. If it's too much more north, it's probably a little far for me. And so I just knew, if I could find a good place in southern BC, it's not far from Wyoming, it'd be easy to get to. I could figure out how to clear customs. So I had a friend of mine who's an outdoor writer, and just said, man, I went with these guys. Horseback, remote cabin, like as authentic as you can get. Great goats, beautiful. So I talked to these guys a few years ago. They're called Elk Valley Bighorn Outfitters.
Shout out.
Yep. And Elk Valley, and started talking to Ryan and Sam and just a bunch of great guys. And they'd been recommended, and it was one of those, okay, you know, when am I going to get up there? And they contacted me this spring and had an opening, and so we jumped on it.
So you
Yeah.
booked a mountain goat hunt with Elk Valley Bighorn. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, goat is not in their name. They do elk hunts. They actually do bighorn sheep hunts too.
But it was in the Elk Valley. That's why they're called Elk
Yeah,
Valley.
it is actually called the Elk Valley. Is where we hunted
in
out of.
the.
Did you see any of them?
What do you call them?
Kootenays.
Kootenays, yeah.
We did not see bighorn, but there's another gentleman that was hunting goat up there at the same time, and they saw some bighorn sheep one day, some ewes and lambs.
Sweet.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So walk us through the timeline of or the hunt. So you leaving Sheridan and took your plane.
Yeah, it was actually my first international trip. With me as a pilot.
Yeah.
I have been out of the country before. And so I knew like clearing customs. I was actually more nervous about that for the weeks leading up to it than anything else about the hunt. Was just the logistics of that and not wanting to do something wrong and like have F-18s like come up next to me in the plane or something and tell me to
pilot,
pull
please,
over.
Just
And you're like, it's a cardigan, but thanks for noticing.
Why was I just thinking of that line? And so pull over. So anyways, did that. And so we flew in up there and actually had a couple great friendly custom Canadian agents that met us at the airport and kind of did everything. And so it was just an easy nonstop flight here from Wyoming to be able to get up there, and which is great. It's easier for bringing firearms and all that kind of stuff,
Yep.
you know, to be able to not go commercial. And then knowing we wanted to bring meat and cape and horns and stuff like that back too, it just kind of provided for an easy opportunity to get up there and a whole lot less travel time.
Way
And
simpler.
Yeah. So it was easy, huh? Yeah, it was easy for you.
Yeah, it was great.
She's a co-pilot.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was easy and
It was fun. Coming into land, it's just beautiful. I mean, the mountains up there in BC are just gorgeous. The Canadian Rockies, just absolutely beautiful. So
for sure.
yeah. So so we flew up there, and then basically met up the next morning. Actually, somehow found an amazing restaurant that night. Might have been
tapas and tequilas.
might have been Brenda's like highlight of the trip was that dinner.
Sounds like my kind of place.
I think, it was not like a hunting camp. Well, we ate good in hunting camp. It just was different than hunting camp.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds very nice.
yes.
So land and then you eat out hotel.
Yeah. We drove that night a little ways and ate. And then the next morning, basically, Outfitter was going to show up at 7 or 8 in the morning. And then we were going to drive a couple hours from there, kind of into the mountains.
Right.
We were going to meet at a base camp. And then we're going to saddle up our horses and head up about 5 miles from there on horses to where then our true base camp was going to be for the hunt. So showed up that day, and essentially it was get there and then maybe do a little bit of glassing that night and stuff, which kind of the crazy thing about goats is you can just glass them from low country and just glass them up from camp up at the top of these peaks that are, 2,500, 3,000 feet higher than you, but not far, but just really high towering around you, and you can just kind of glass from there. So we packed up on the horses and had a great ride in, which was super fun. Good horses, and it's always fun to, I don't know, something about hunting on horses. It's just fun. So
Was it a good string or was it just a few horses?
So total we had, so there was another hunter along with us, and so there was 2 guides, 2 hunters, Brenda, and a camp cook that went up there, and then they'd had some of camp already packed in, so there wasn't too many horses. There's a little
think we
string
had
that
a
came with us, probably 8 horses or something.
string
I
of
don't know.
Couple
9.
supply
2.
horses.
Yeah.
I think we had 3 supply horses or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was great.
Uh-huh.
And we got to camp. It was just pristine. Like everything was like it was totally
Just-
set up and beautiful and full kitchen and it was one of the nicer outfitted camps.
Backcountry camps that you have to pack
come to.
into, that you can't bring a
Yeah.
truck to, because it all has to be horsed and packed in, and just it was beautiful, clean. I mean, we had a little dinky wood stove in our little cabin, and fresh wood chopped right outside of it. I mean, it's the type of deal where
running water into the kitchen. I was
when-
like, wow, this is pretty.
when we hunted
pretty
mule
legit.
deer with you, Luke, a few weeks ago. Did we ever do a podcast on that one? Can't remember. But anyways,
We did
we
it.
I
were.
don't think so. No.
No.
We'll have to
We
do
should do
that
that.
one because that was awesome.
That was a great hunt. We should definitely do
was.
that. But I mean, we're sleeping. We packed in 5 miles all on our backs, sleeping in the rain on the ground, and then you show up at a place like this. You ride in on horses. Brenda may or may not have brought some box wine with us to sip around the evening around the fire. So, yeah, that was actually part of the stop the night before,
Gotcha.
after dinner.
That's just smart, really.
Yeah. No, it really is. Helps you sleep better. So yeah, it was a cool camp. And then here's the cool thing about it. It was the weather. The weather down here has been phenomenal, this fall. A little too warm for a lot of hunting scenarios,
Yeah.
but just easy to get around in. And we were booked for the week after, and it worked better for my scheduling for theirs to move in, and we moved it earlier in the year. Well, as it turns out, like 2 days after we packed out, it just snowed and rained for like 10 days
Nonstop.
straight.
Yeah.
So we had like
Timing.
gorgeous weather. Yeah,
Nice.
so
The
that was kinda cool.
trees, I mean, the leaves on the trees,
gosh.
everything was changing. It was just gorgeous. Just drop dead.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
There's super steep mountains. I mean, so the terrain's just rocky goat country up high.
You're like in a canyon, or
Yeah.
Yep.
basically.
Yeah, in essence, some lakes were up in there. So just, those kind of turquoise lakes. We rode up at one point to basically the mount where the glacier was. So, I mean,
Yep.
these are glacier-fed turquoise lakes. The kind of stuff you see on, like, those Instagram accounts or something,
Yeah, like a storybook type
Right.
setting. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's just,
It was unbelievable.
it was
Beautiful.
super pretty.
It
So
was kind of this that little cabin at that one little lake that people like backpack into, and there's like it's like a public cabin.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty cool.
yeah.
There's like a guitar sitting in there, and
Yeah.
like
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, so the outfitter obviously has, a lease or permits, to be able
Sure.
to hunt this area. So we're the only non-residents that could hunt there. There could be residents. We didn't run into any resident hunters at all, and we were the only
Right.
non-resident because you have to have the outfit in order to do that.
What's
so.
the elevation?
We were at about 5
yeah.
Okay.
at camp, and then like at one point, I was up at about 85. Would have
Oh,
been
wow.
and again, that's not a lot of miles to get to the 8,500.
Just straight up.
Just straight
just-
up.
just
Next
go
to you.
straight up.
Yeah, it's goat country.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean the valley is still kind of low, real wooded, and then as you just go up, it gets above the timberline, goes to rock pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
That first night that you're glassing, did you see anything?
Yeah.
yeah, we saw
Like
goats
5 or 6
from camp.
Yeah, from camp.
That's encouraging.
Nanny,
So-
Always,
kids.
like-
Here's
Yes, like the anticipation. Is like,
I mean,
would
here's
not
the
be able to
thing.
sleep.
On the way in, so here's the deal about goats, right? You go hunt we were hunting elk this weekend actually after the goat hunt, but Brenda tagged a nice bull by the way a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a podcast, but just had her biggest bull yet. But when you're hunting elk, it's like from a long distance. You don't have to decide whether it's a cow or a bull.
It's
Even
pretty
with an elk,
obvious.
you can decide if it's a 300-inch elk or a 350 elk. It's just you get a good spotter, you can tell. If you haven't hunted mountain goats a lot, Nanny's got horns and Billy's got horns, and sometimes Nanny's can be longer. And so actually on the way up there, we were watching again a first mountain goat hunt. There's a video that Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance put out.
Yep.
Stephen Runnell actually narrates it.
Yep.
And it's like 8 minutes long. And I watched it beforehand, and then on the way up, we were listening to it, and just trying to really get the difference between them. And then a younger Billy to a mature Billy, and up there we were going to shoot. I think legally we could shoot a nanny, but for the population and conservation reasons
sure.
and trophy reasons and
Yeah.
all the things, going after Billy. So when you're at camp and you're glassing up to these things, you're like, yep, there's a white furry dot. And then
That's
sooner or
goat.
later,
It's a goat.
so you can't tell. Like we stalked a bull elk at 1.5 miles on Sunday, and we knew it was a shooter elk from 1.5 miles
Right.
versus a smaller bull. You can't at 1.5 miles. You
Doesn't matter how good your
maybe could
spotter
tell
is.
the gender, maybe, but certainly not the age. And so even for experienced mountain goat hunters, that's difficult. So it's hard when you spot them at camp to know, is that worth a day to go find out if that's a goat you want to
That's a
shoot?
great question.
Yeah.
So so we kind of realized that. Actually, they knew some, but were a little bit closer who were
Right.
nannies. One was possibly a Billy, and we were going to go kind of up in a different area, but we did see goats, that first night. So, yeah.
So you go to bed with the box wine,
Mm-hmm.
and you're pumped because you get arrived to camp. I would be pumped if you,
Yeah,
you get
I'd be
there.
like not
There's goats
sleepy.
here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the first hunting day look like?
Brent?
This was going to be our long touring day. We were going to kind of see
Put
what
some
we could
miles
see.
down. Yeah.
Yep. So I think we went a total of 15 miles, most of that by horse, but maybe 3 or 4 walking. And we pretty much went down the whole valley. So we didn't go up high, but we thought let's kind of see what we can see.
Glassing from the bottom.
Glassing from
Your
the bottom.
neck, literally, your neck hurts
Yeah.
because
She's,
of the
like, looking
angle.
up.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
it's crazy.
Yep. So there was a couple spots that was like there should have been lots of goats. And we actually didn't see that many goats that day.
I think we saw
Like 2 or something.
like 1 nanny and 2 younger billies that whole day.
Yeah. So that was
Yeah.
not really encouraging because this was the day that they're like, no, you should see so many goats.
And the guide was like, "Yeah, we usually see, there's usually 15 goats on this hill."
Yeah.
So it was
Uh-oh.
warm, and we
It
did
was
find
warm.
out they're up as high as they could be in shady, craggy places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
It was probably at least 60, wasn't it?
I don't know. It was warm. Yeah,
It was warm.
It's
yeah.
cold at night in the morning, but
Yeah. But it was a beautiful day. Just going by all these lakes and got, inside of the glacier and stuff. So that was awesome. But when we came back, we were like, we got to look somewhere else. Like, we're not going back to a spot that
There's no goats.
was
it was a
confirmed.
fun trail ride.
It was a fun trail ride.
We did a lot
Some
of
armed trail riding.
Uh-huh.
we did a lot of glassing.
We had a great little picnic lunch.
we did. It was awesome.
No box
But
wine
not
on
a
the
lot of
picnic lunch.
action.
No box wine for the picnic lunch.
No, we leave that
That
for
was
the
water.
nighttime.
So it was a super long day, but not a lot of goats seen
Not
that
real
first
productive.
day, and I could tell the guys were like, okay, we're gonna have to work for them. I think sometimes goats are, you always have to hike to get up to them, but just spotting them, and sometimes you can be a little more picky and choosy. And again, we were only gonna shoot a mature billy, and so we saw 0 that day. So, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Day 1.
So that
Yeah.
was day
Highs
1.
and lows. Little bit.
Yeah, it was like, okay, we're gonna, and then so the other hunter had got back, and
Larry, which
Larry
he's
was
such
awesome.
a great guy.
he's a great guy. Yeah.
Missouri, is that where he's from?
Retired? No.
Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Retired sheriff, and just had a great time with him, and kind of a dream hunt of his. He'd been on an unsuccessful mountain goat hunt previous, and so he was looking to get a mountain
Looking
goat.
for redemption.
Yeah, so he was up there and really enjoyed sharing camp with him.
Did he see anything that day?
I think his guide ended up seeing some, further up, there and stuff. And I
Yeah.
know he'd actually had ankle surgery here a couple of years ago, and so I think he was like, look, when I see one, and I'm going to get on those rocks. It could be like a 1 round trip, and that's about it.
Let's make it count.
Yeah, exactly. So they had seen some goats, but not nearly as many as they thought, and nothing that they could go shoot that day. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And in fact, I don't think that anything they were going to go back after the next day because they were going to go look in a different area. So we did we perused a lot of miles and didn't see any shooter billies that day. So,
Which he said is very unusual. Usually they have a goat down like the first day or 2. So.
Are you sensing any panic in the guides?
Oh, no.
Not
no. I mean, we were
First
going to give
day.
it time. We knew we did have some pretty extreme weather towards the end of the trip.
How many days did you have set to be in camp?
Well, we had set 7. We were going to have about maybe 5 before a real bad snowstorm came in.
So our goal was to be done.
We were
in
hoping to be
5.
done by 5.
Yeah.
Was the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had a bit longer. I also was flying back, and we had some things after this, and so I also didn't want to get snowed in BC
And
for
get
10
stuck in
days
a
in a
week.
hotel.
Yeah.
So we did want to get out of there too.
Fernie is
to
a
fly
nice
out,
nice
so
little town, though.
It's amazing. Yeah. So
Day 2.
day 2 was interesting for a lot of reasons.
It was
so
interesting. It was a great day.
yeah, I got up, went in the kitchen, get some coffee. Coffee wasn't made. Went back, and before we knew it, there was a little accident in camp that morning, and unfortunately, the camp cook, who's just a sweetheart, burned herself real bad in the kitchen, like real bad.
At like 7 in the morning. And
Or it was dark. Yeah,
yeah.
before we were gonna get out of there.
It was a pretty serious injury.
Yeah, but hard to ride out, but not helicopter serious. But
yeah,
she couldn't
not
ride.
life-threatening.
No, but needed a
Very
lot of ice and
uncomfortable.
water and
Serious
needed
discomfort.
needed attention. They were all males in camp,
Except for
hunting guides and things like that, except for Brenda. And so,
Yep.
if you know Brenda, She cares about people more than hunting. I do too. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but I do. And so
I think it was just, I kind of knew that was the right thing to do would be to stay back with her and make sure she was taken care of. And so that's what I decided to do that day.
And she said, Brenda said, look, if I was her and in that pain and needed, cold stuff every 5 minutes and those things, I would probably really want somebody with me all day. That'd be a very painful day.
Like she's not moving around on her own very well or at all.
No, not at all. Yeah.
No.
So
it was very painful.
So Brenda said, you know what? I'm gonna stay back today and help with that situation. And I was torn because I was ready to go shoot a goat and I wanted Brenda to be there, but I knew
camera guy.
People are more important, and that's what Brenda said that morning. She said, "Hey, God has us every day. He's got a plan lined out, and my plan today is to help look after the injured camp cook."
Awesome.
And your plan is to go shoot a goat.
It was going to take multiple days for you guys to even find one.
Yeah,
I mean,
you didn't see
I
a goat
got
the day
lots
before.
of time.
How many times have you hunted with me? Come
I'm
on,
just
Brenda.
going to save my energy for the day when it counts.
But to make it clear, she was doing it to help. She didn't need a day off. She was anxious to get out of there big time. To go up there.
Yeah.
So
we know Brenda can hang for sure.
Definitely worked out.
I think she packed out on that mule deer hunt. She packed out more weight than I did, but I didn't want to tell anybody.
It was close. We
did.
all had a lot of weight.
We
on
did.
That trip.
We did.
Yeah.
So I left her in the morning with my guide.
Yep.
Larry and his guide went out, and our plan that day was to go park the horses about hour and a half from camp. So ride about an hour and a half, quite a bit uphill, about as far as you could in the timber, tie up the horses, and then start rock climbing. So
with
I offered to stay back at the camp. The problem was the tag was in my name.
Yeah.
I didn't offer.
That'd have been fun.
So in hopes, and all
I
this
just
is
had a bad job.
in hopes that there's a goat.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So basically, we weren't seeing them from the bottom.
Yeah.
From the valley floor. And so the idea was we're going to have to get up there in their kitchen and start poking around these different rocky peaks that kind of, circle around and do these different things. So we could start, we're going to have to go into their kitchen to find them.
Right.
When you can't see them from down there, they're just up there hiding. And the goats that we had seen had been incredibly high. So they said, let's get up there and let's glass.
Right on.
So we tied up the horses and then went kind of on a non-trailed, very steep, very deadfall, like an hour. The first hour of hiking was straight up in deadfall. Then I'm like, I can't wait till I get out of this. Till I got out of that. And then it was shale and rock. And it got, basically it was steep scree. And I was wishing I was in the steep deadfall at that point. And so at some point, that was the day we were up glassing at 8,500, camps at 5,000. And so
that's a ways up.
Yeah, so it was a lot. There was probably, a half mile of like 1,500 feet, at the end type of thing. So it was a lot to get up there. To be honest, like it fatigued me. I was tired, and we were up there glassing and kind of cooled off because it was so warm down below, and I could tell why the goats were up there. And man, we got up on top of this one just rocky cliff and then looked off the other side down into it, which we wouldn't have been able to see and I'm like, literally right below us could have just been goats because it's these just rocky little outcroppings, super shady, cool breeze, and
tons of places to hide.
This is where they're going to be, is a place just like this.
Yeah.
So we spent an hour or two up top and are more just kind of hiking and repositioning ourselves where we could get different vantage points up in 100% of these rocky areas. Now there would be just right below it, there'd be grass. Grass, some sort of feed kind of in the rocks. Sheep do similar sort of things. So they could literally hang on these rocky ledges, bed, kind of come over here and do these things. And then there was some snow they could get some moisture at. Little patches of snow here and there and stuff like that too. So they can survive in the high country. Obviously,
it doesn't seem like there's any food for them, really.
It's crazy.
It's not like a golf course of grass. No. It's just like little twigs of grass every once in a while.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So fast forward till 2:00.
Okay,
we're up top, and we said, well, let's hike over this one next ledge and just kind of look down this one area we hadn't seen. And so the moment we popped over, we were cliffed out straight ahead of us, straight down 1,500 feet, just straight rock,
Full on cliff.
straight down.
Yeah.
1,500 feet. Straight ahead of us on the next neighboring cliff was one billy bedded in a little like grassy portion of the middle of the rocks at about the same elevation across over there, 900 yards. So we put the spotter on him, and again, even at 900 yards, and this guy's probably guided 50 successful goat hunters, really, really good guide, and a bunch of sheep hunters, and he'd been up there in high country. He's like, that's a billy, and I'm pretty sure that's a good billy until I'm not, maybe later, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, let's assume that's a good billy, and we wanted to make a play today, like how are we going to get to it? Well, we knew that it was to drop 1,500 feet, back down, kind of not all the way where we came from, but maybe halfway, loop back into a valley in between it where we could get under it at maybe 400 to 500.
Okay.
If it stayed,
And it's 2 o'clock.
it's 2 o'clock.
And that doesn't sound like a 2-hour situation.
Well,
Maybe.
no, yeah, because
Yeah.
we could head down some steeper areas and cut that off. So we actually figured it'd be about 2 hours
Gotcha.
to get to them.
Okay.
So I actually had a bar phone service. I texted Brenda.
Yeah. He said, well, we saw Billy, but all three things have to happen. It has to be a good Billy. It has to still be there when we get there. And I don't remember what your third
And we
one
got to
was.
get within range.
And we got to go
before
within
dark.
range. And so I was like, yes, they're probably not going to be
None
able
of
to do
those are
this.
going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm wanting him to get a goat that day because you always want to have an opportunity. But the other part, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to miss it. But I kind of was like, well, it is what it is. So,
Right, because we
Yep.
knew, the other thing we knew by this point already was the goats they were seeing were leaving the areas they were in. Like, it's not as if, a certain game you can go back and that whitetail's going to be on that patch of
Generally,
grass.
yeah,
That's
for
fine.
sure.
We were experiencing kind of the opposite, and they were going over into different basins.
Yeah.
And so,
they were
kind of at
moving.
that point, it was going to be 2 days down if we didn't get that one. And then, we're like just not sure because here's the deal. The other guide had been there the day before. There was not a goat back in this basin.
Oh, he just.
Then the goat appeared.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of hocus pocus with these things.
Okay.
So I texted her, and in my heart, I'm like, kind of hope it doesn't work out, and I hope we could just shoot one tomorrow. But I also knew that if I got within range,
You're
and the
probably
goat was
gonna
there, and it
make
was a
your-
mature billy. You know me, Luke. You've
Oh,
seen
yeah.
me in the moment.
I was
Brenda
like-
knows me.
Well, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, if you have the opportunity, you better
I
shoot
did not want
I
to
don't
get on
think
that.
you can stop him.
No. When you get on that plane and you come home, I did not want to have a regret for not shooting a billy, right?
Yeah,
if I got within range.
For sure.
But obviously I wanted Brenda there. So we dropped off, and it was a pretty painful drop off. I mean, it was so steep. The rocks were bad. I got bad ankles and had 2 trekking poles out, and had the big camera gear with me because my cameraman was gone. And the gun,
made him
the
take
gun and
everything.
spotting scope. And so we dropped down and came off the backside, and we could have taken, he wanted to take me, hey, we could take this shortcut. And I looked down this scree like drainage, and the angle of descent was rather steep. And it was like, that's going to add 20 minutes, but I'm going to, like, even just 3 years ago, I'd have gone down it. And I'm like, I twisted my ankle on that mule deer hunt, and I got a weak ankle. I just said, I'm not going to go down that. Let's go around. So I'm getting wise.
That's good.
Maybe.
That's good.
So we went around. We get down to the bottom, and we look up where that goat is, and we see 3 goats.
He multiplied.
Uh-huh. And they were to the right of where he was. And we kept looking, and he kept going, man, those look like younger goats. But we couldn't really tell. And then so he's like, shoot, where'd the other one go? We keep hiking along the bottom, and we get to 900 yards. I know it's been 2 hours at this point, but we had to go back around to get to the bottom in order to get into the bottom of the basin where he was. And so we kept hiking and started to realize those 3 goats probably weren't shooter goats, that they were younger.
Right.
Then we could all of a sudden see the grassy patch where that one billy was that we'd spotted a 2 was, and he wasn't there. So then I started to go, cool. So we had 1, he's gone. Now we have 3. They're not shooter billies. So I started to go, okay, well, this will probably just work out, and it'll be a big, long day, and I was going to be really sore the next day. And so we kept moving forward, and we wanted to get a better look at these other goats and also see where did the other goat go.
He's somewhere.
He either went up and out of the basin, or he fed down. Fed down would be towards where we were going.
Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, we get to the end of the basin, and he fed down, and he was feeding off like right to the end of this dead-end basin that we were in with, a sheer 2,000-foot cliff at the, it was a dead end, right?
Yeah.
This little basin. Dead-end cliffs around you at, 3 sides.
So he can't really go too many
Well,
places.
he was feeding down and over a little saddle towards another basin,
Okay.
which would have been impassable for us.
Okay.
And we briefly saw him, but he went out of sight, and there was like a hill in between us. And so we went, if we're going to go get him, we got to
Get to that hill.
basically, we're going to get to that little hill and be about 350 yards, probably spook him because we're going to be falling on rock.
The only play is really aggressive.
But yes,
Yeah.
we're going to go 50-50. We blow him out or he gets over the basin. Let's just go see what happens.
Yeah.
So sure enough, we go, like I'm falling. It's like you're going up. At that point, I had the rifle, on my sling, falling down, just trying to get up. It was a scree mound. I don't even know what to call things up there. A hill,
Like a pebble pile.
a hill of rocks that when you step on them slide down. And we're trying to be totally quiet because we're within 500 yards of a goat.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Sasquatch is sneaking up on this thing, which they have up there too, but that's another podcast.
That's a different tag.
And so,
Believe.
and so, basically, we get up to the top of this thing. We can't see him, and there was a period of a few minutes where we're like, "He's gone." Like, what happened? We scared him off, and it's not like they run away like a bull elk when you're on it. Like they move. Like they decide and they go somewhere, but it's not like they prance.
Right.
They're not like pew, just
not an
dart
antelope,
like a
just
whitetail
gone.
or whitetail. So we get up there, and long story, he comes into view 300 to 350 yards. But right when we sees him. Right when we sees him, he sees us, and he had heard us.
Yeah. He's alert.
And so at that point, it was, okay, Brenda's not there, so I'm like weighing with that. This final, do I want to shoot him, even though I knew I was going to shoot him. But I had that ethical battle, that thing in my mind.
Sure.
But I knew I was going to shoot him. And then double checking with my guide, seeing how it was my
Is it
first.
good?
Is that a mature billy? And one of the things I'm known for is when I know I want to shoot, I drop down and then before you can count to 1, I just pull the trigger. I shot out animals from under people. I've just killed stuff before I even decide to kill it.
Video people
So,
can't catch
Video
the kill
people,
shot 'cause,
my bighorn sheep I drew in Oregon, he said 1, 2, and I shot on 3. I didn't know I had to wait till a second
You're
after
shooting on
3.
4. Yeah.
And then I didn't get that on film. So sure enough, he goes, that's a mature billy. That's a shooter. Well, literally just dropped down, had my Spartan bipod on the front, and I had the Weatherby Backcountry 2.0 carbon TI 338 Weatherby RPM.
Yeah.
And we got a
all
lot
the
of names.
things. All the things.
And just I had the Leupold VX6 HD on it and zoomed in a little bit and pulled the trigger. And then I go, I think it was a hit. And he goes, I don't know you were shooting yet.
He said he didn't catch the first 2.
Didn't even.
No, so
He's
then
like, I didn't know you were
I'm like,
shooting.
it sounded like a hit, and I felt really good about it. He'd already told me, rule on goats is they're
Goats
very
is really
tough animals. They're not ginormous, but they're really tough. And so I shot him. I go, yeah, it was a hit. And he goes, yeah. And then right when he was talking, I just pulled the trigger again. So I shot the second time. I'm like, think I hit him again. And he goes, well, I didn't know. I didn't know you were shooting. I'm like, yeah, but you said he was about ready to go into that basin. I had 3 seconds. So what am I going to do? Wait for you to get on him?
Right.
And so then sure enough, the goat had walked 20 yards at that point. He turns around, and I see the exit hole, in perfect position. I'd shot him twice in the vitals, 2 perfect shots. But he's there, and he's about ready to, again, he just goes, shoot him again. And I had a 338,
That's got some punch.
It was 3 to 350, I think, 325 to 350. And so I aimed for the exit hole and put one in.
Yeah.
And he laid down. And later, when we did recover him, It was like a sub-MOA group in his vitals. So, I mean, I just was a little paranoid. It was the first goat hunt. He'd been telling me all these stories about how tough they were.
Crazy.
And so I just go, Now, he would have died after the first shot. In hindsight, I didn't know for sure where I'd hit him. And I didn't want to lose.
Your guy didn't even know you're shooting.
He didn't know I was shooting 2 of the times. The last time he's like, you got him. I'm like, that was my 3rd time.
Thanks for the help.
So
that's crazy that he took that much. Tyler, you shot a bull elk 2 weeks ago with 338.
Yeah.
About the same distance. What was your shot?
500.
Okay.
So a little farther.
But even at 500, so a little less energy, it just like anchored that guy.
Yeah.
Like he just
was
dropped
dead.
in his tracks on an elk.
Brenda killed an elk
Brenda.
with 2 shots with the 338 RPM on Sunday, and she didn't need the second shot. I just told her put another one in.
Yeah.
No.
But it had died after the first. So she made 2 great shots. He didn't need 3. I'm just going to
for
make this
sure.
clear, and it happened.
Yeah.
I just had heard stories, and
We don't want him to run off and
Correct.
fall off a cliff.
that's
like,
the
really
problem. They
far.
get to places that's actually the 4th thing. When she said there were 3 things, the 4th thing
yeah.
was it needs to be in a place that you can recover the animal
Yeah.
and or that he's not going to fall 1,500 vertical feet and be just a bloody mess and you ruin the entire animal.
Yeah.
Meat, horns,
Break
cape,
horn off,
and everything. So that's actually the 4th thing. And he was going up to a pretty bad spot. I just had anchor him in my mind, and so I did. So he lays down after that 3rd shot, and then about 10 seconds later he must have twitched or something, and he fell down 20 yards. And so the other 3 goats we were looking at that were up high would have been a 1,500-foot vertical drop, straight down.
Oh my goodness.
And so it just
in a good spot.
it all added up where it was the biggest one, fed down to us,
Perfect.
to a spot we could recover him to 350 yards. So it was just like, so I told Brenda later, Brenda, it was handed to me on a silver platter. Like
Had
it
to
was
do it.
just
It's
absolutely.
like kept checking all your boxes, all your requirements.
Yes,
off.
so they
Meant
were
to
all
be,
there.
meant to be.
Yeah.
When we got up to it, he did break his one horn in half just in 20 yards.
No way.
Then we looked at the blood trail because it was literally 20 yards from where
It
he'd
was probably
fallen.
substantial.
There it was. The exit hole was substantial. I used the 185 TTSX. I shot kudu with it this year. She just shot her elk with it. I don't know. Is that what you
That's
used?
what I used to,
Okay,
yeah.
and it worked.
Yep, worked
great.
fine.
It's been a great combination. You know, going over 3,000 foot a second.
Yeah.
But with 185 grain with that 338, and I'm confident I shot that goat in one shot. And so I just and I have a lot of one shot kills. It was my only goat hunt, and I had this like. I don't want to regret anything today, and I just want this thing dead. And later I'm like, yeah, I probably should have gone a little easier, but I just had the adrenaline. I was like that 12-year-old kid in the whitetail stand for the first time. I was so
Yeah,
excited.
That's awesome.
And so, but here's the cool thing. We found his broken horn
Okay.
and brought it back. So
Was
it's,
it like
it's now with the
obvious
taxidermist.
spot, or was it like kind of lucky that you
It
found
took 45 seconds. We just
Oh,
said,
awesome.
he was on that hill. Here's the blood.
gotta
Doo,
be.
doo, doo, doo. My
There
guide
it
goes,
was.
found it. So for the pictures, we fixed it on there barely.
you had
And
some
it
Gravity?
kept,
Duct tape.
no, it kind of fit in like a puzzle
yeah,
piece.
I mean, it's like keratin, right? So it kind of like
Correct.
breaks jagged, so you can.
Yeah.
Put it
So
back.
all the pictures have it on there. If you probably zoom in, some of it might be crooked because we had to reaffix it 15 times because it kept coming off. My first impression of going up to, I mean, they're larger than you think.
Okay.
Their hides are just amazing. Their hooves are very amazing. They're padded in. You can actually push the bottom of them in, and unlike other animals, you push it in, it's real hard. It has a grippy. It's soft and grippy.
like a dog foot almost.
Again, I'm talking. I haven't looked at anything.
Not
Yeah,
that
but
soft,
harder.
Yeah.
It's like this, and you could
It
tell
kinda,
how
like,
they can grip
goes
with it.
around a rock, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
That's wild.
And so you can tell how they can climb so cool. So he ended up being a 6.5-year-old billy, which for up there is a good, it's a good billy. You can get them 7 or 8, but 6.5 is well above. I think 4.5 and up, is kind of a more mature one in that part of the world. And I know it differs upon the areas, but you can get that off the horns. And when we did check it in afterwards, the guy who checks it in verified that it was 6.5.
Awesome.
Which
And
was
then
a
what is
good billy.
the length on that?
Right. So his length was about 9 inches. And so, it's again, difference between a booner is like an inch or something, So it's so little. So his horns measured about, to be honest, I just threw tape on it, and when I got home, like real quickly, it could have been 9 something. I don't know, but it was over 9 inches.
cool.
You know, so it was a
That's
a
awesome.
good. He just said that's a shooter billy. It wasn't a book billy. It was just a shooter, mature billy that you want to shoot. We passed a lot of young billies and the nannies, and you know, got this mature billy.
That's
so.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. So probably the hardest part of the whole hunt was the next 2 hours was photos and caping, and we did take out the whole cape because that's kind of the coolest part of the trophy on a
It's
go.
gorgeous. Yeah.
And so
and I got the photo lesson, but then Adam had to give the guide the photo lesson.
Perfect.
So we had lots of blurry photos, but in the end,
he captured
did
some
great.
great ones.
No. He
There
did
are some great
There are
He did
some great ones too,
Yeah,
and some blurry ones, but there were both. And so we
I would have too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually got, I think, enough video where we'll probably put together a little short film on it.
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's your guys'
I
department.
haven't talked to Mac about how much
Yeah.
she's gone through.
I
yet.
haven't seen any of the.
Well, we're
of
here
the
to tell
footage,
you
but
we got some great footage.
Yeah.
If he can't make a good video out of this, but it'll be short because it was a shorter hunt.
The self-filmed iPhone video moose hunt 2 years ago was
That was
phenomenal.
They're always
so
fun.
That
yeah,
was fun.
That was
we
really, really
we
good.
somehow we get together, we just have a good time, and it's fun. So we did that. But anyways, then packing him off was obviously dark.
So
and
did
so
you
we
come
were-
back into camp like, so I did a thing.
No, I knew he had shot
Oh,
shot
okay.
him. Yeah.
I inReached.
Yes.
I think we didn't have service down there, so I inReached her and let her know. I did. We got back to camp at 11:30. But the 2 hours of it on the backs before the horses, it was not 2 hours of a National Forest maintained trail with 0% incline.
Right.
So the hardest part was the first quarter mile in the dark off the mountain. I fell down several times. I skinned up there was one point I turned around, so I obviously was going down on my butt. And when I fell, I turned around and just gripped the shale and scree,
Just on your belly?
and it was
Yeah.
going. I scratched
my
up my belly
goodness.
a little, and then my shin, and I had a lot of weight, not as much as my guide because I'm a sissy, but I tried. And so that was tough. Then when we got off there, then it was to go through the deadfall, which
With
is
more weight.
with
Yeah,
weight.
awesome.
So then we do finally get to the horses, and it was I've done longer pack outs, but the per mile was rather difficult in the goat territory. And not to mention the mental part of knowing the grizzly population. They
Pretty
told
healthy.
Brenda the first night we're sitting around and
They were telling stories, and I'm like, I should not have stayed up for those stories.
I really don't appreciate what you're doing for me right now.
Yeah. My guide, I have to tell you this because I just thought it was hilarious. But my guide, our guide, didn't pack a gun, and they're telling us all about these grizzly stories. But then when we were on our trip by the first day, he found like a bear spray clip,
the safety.
the
kinda.
safeties.
Oh yeah.
So
and he
somebody had
runs up
deployed.
to me. Yeah, he runs up to me because he
Brenda had bear
knows
spray.
I had bear spray because I didn't have a gun on me. And he was more, I told Adam, I'm like, that's weird. That guy is more scared of my bear spray than a grizzly.
He was like, "Wait, don't move. Don't move." He thought it was Brenda's clip. It wasn't. It was on the
We
trail
laughed
from
so
somebody
hard.
else.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So he thought it was her clip, and he's like, "Hold on, do not." So
I
it
feel like
turns
this guy's
out
been
he
sprayed
has.
before.
Yeah.
He's been sprayed in the eyes before, and he's
I
like,
guess he's
"I'd rather
never been
face a
attacked
grizzly."
by a grizzly, but he has been sprayed in the
That
eyes
stuff
with
is
bear
rough.
spray.
Really rough.
I just laughed so hard.
So, anyways, we pack off. We get back to the horses, and then we got to ride in the dark. The horses are dead tired. We get back to
They
the
were
horses
running though, right? You
10
said?
10 p.m. I mean, you couldn't hold these horses back for nothing. Through the trees in the dark, they can see better.
They can
It was
sense,
like,
yeah.
have you been on Space Mountain in Disneyland, California?
I've not.
Or I've been on the one in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's dark,
Space Mountain.
and it's
Space
just
Mountain's
it's just
been there.
jerky,
The best.
fast, and dark.
That's what it
Yeah.
was.
2 hours. and every once in a while, I go, "Hey, bro, I'm going to check my OnX and make sure we're still in Canada. I have no idea where we are." He's like, "These horses
We're in
will make their way back."
Mexico now.
So I'd stop, and I'm like, "How are they on this trail that barely exists?" Oh my gosh.
They
yeah.
know.
Anyways,
Yeah.
with all the the weight of the goat and everything too, and so
The
bottom
smell
line
of the
is though,
goat.
Brenda had taken over the kitchen at that point because the camp cook was injured.
For sure.
And there was steak and potatoes and red wine at 11:30 p.m. at
Oh,
camp.
of course there
wow.
was.
And a
Wild
warm
flavors
fire.
there.
course.
North Lake.
That's awesome.
So that was super
What
super
a cool.
fun. the storm was coming in after that, but there was a couple more days. Next day it was, it's almost half a day to turn your cape and all that kind of stuff, the ears and nose and the hooves and the those claws or whatever those things are called.
Yeah.
So she kind of did all that. So had a whole camp day. That next day, ended up packing out. I think the day after that, Larry ended up not getting a goat, and it was hard.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it ended up. He came by Sheridan on his way home, and which was super cool. And we actually gave him a tour on a Saturday.
That's awesome.
But so he ended up not getting a goat, and based on what they were seeing, it was definitely a good thing I pulled the trigger that night, because it was
That
good.
may have been the
good
only goat
hunting.
you saw the whole trip.
Yeah. I think
never
it's been
know,
hard
but-
work. You just never know. So as it turns out, Brenda missed out on that part, but other than that, we had a phenomenal trip up there. So in total with travel and getting in and getting out, even though it just seems like the hunt was so short, it was like a week, somehow between all that
Yeah, I
almost,
guess so.
6
Yeah.
days anyways. So
Do you know how the burn turned out? Is she okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
doing
she's good.
well.
She's good.
I guess it's a painful recovery when you get burned that bad.
Yeah.
But she's doing better.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
she's doing good. But it was a fun hunt. Lived up to my expectations. Outfitter was great. The equipment all used down to the caliber. I'd kind of thought about bringing something smaller, but I said, I heard goats are tough, and had that 338 RPM with that little 20-inch barrel, and it just was a great little gun.
Good mountain gun.
Oh, really good. I was super happy about that gun.
Yeah.
On that trip that I chose kind of the smaller package, but the bigger bullet. It just was a great kind of combo. So that was good, and we took our cryptic stuff. We love that altitude gear is good up north. It's just it was good stuff, and that performed well. And yeah, probably the only bummer is it was so warm. Brought my insulated boots, and we sweat and got blisters in our feet because it was so warm. Should have brought the non-insulated Kenetrex. I brought the insulated ones, but that's the only regret.
Only regret.
And then we're able to load up the goat and the guns in the plane and flew back and cleared customs.
That's awesome.
Did everything right. I was like, shoot, hope I did everything right. Did everything right from the wildlife perspective as well as the guns and the customs and all that stuff. So.
We're going to talk about meat too.
Oh, okay. So we got home,
Yeah.
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 and
Because some people don't think goat's very good.
it's goat.
It's goat.
It's in the meat hierarchy, it's not real high typically.
Yeah, I mean, they were like, well, yeah.
They like double grind the backstrap.
Yeah, we're like, what? So we didn't grind the backstrap. I'm like, no, we're going to give the backstrap a
Look,
fair
give
chance.
it a
we
go.
haven't eaten that yet.
No, but we ground, I got Italian sausage seasoning and then did some like 30% fat, beef fat. And then we ground it. And then that day after or something, we made my sausage potato soup that is on Wild Flavors.
Yeah.
And it was great.
It was
was
really good.
Really good.
It was fine. It was
We've only had it in Italian sausage. It did not taste any tougher.
Nope.
And what I've heard is it doesn't have a bad flavor. It can be very, very tough,
Yeah.
but the flavor is good.
Yeah.
So it was good.
That's why we're going to, I don't think we're just going to slap the backstrap on the grill at 400 degrees and invite over your best friend. But
Yeah, we made a stew out of tenderloins from an ibex, and it was the flavor wasn't great, and it was really tough. It was like ibex flavored warm chewing gum.
Yeah. Yeah.
so this was okay. We haven't done a steak yet, so we'll see. But the Italian sausage was mixed with beef fat and high mountain seasoning was great.
It was perfect.
That's awesome.
So far, that was really good. And then Gary, my buddy, taxidermist.
Oh, shout out for Gary.
Yeah,
That's
Gary
awesome.
English,
Shout out.
great taxidermist and good friend. He's got the cape. We salted it up there and brought it back and got it to him this past week as well. Dropped it off on our way to an elk hunt. We had a goat in the back and dropped off our cape and horns
That's awesome.
with the taxidermist on the way to get an elk. And I think that's I don't know. Any other questions?
Oh, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
That sounds like an amazing.
Does it make
adventure.
you guys want to go on a goat hunt?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's definitely a bucket list situation for me. Yeah.
So it's
Doll
really
sheep,
it's really different, and
mountain
it's kind
goat.
of I can see how it's addicting. It's because they're in such a different place. You're glassing areas you've never glassed, so it's very unique because you're up so high in these rocks, and it's just you're used to things coming out grazing. If you're used to other ungulates like deer and elk, it's just such a different hunt than that.
Right.
It's just and I've hunted a couple sheep. It was even different than sheep, and our guide said there's nothing more fun than to hunt goat because it's even too when you're on the valley floor and you're horse riding or you're doing things, you can just talk and be loud because you know you're not jumping them on the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're
So
in
it's
a
not gonna
very
be in the
specific
woods.
spot.
So it's like a different kind of hunt where it's like, it's just really fun. It was. It's really fun, challenging, and it's beautiful. It's pretty much always going to be beautiful terrain. And, I talked to some different folks and some guys in hunting full and different things with tags. And, you can put in for tags. It's hard to draw a goat, in the lower 48. And he'd said at one point, save up your money instead of putting in for years for that. And for sheep, go draw and everything. He said, save up for a goat. Just go, when you get your pennies saved up, just go on a good goat hunt. Pick a good outfitter.
And do it when you're not too old.
I've heard that a few times.
Yep. I talked our taxidermist Gary. He went on 3 goat hunts, and it took him 3 goat hunts. And and he said the same thing. If you wait till you can think you can afford it, you won't be able to do it.
Physically do it. Yeah.
So it's this balance. And if you're married and have a family, it's tough because convincing other people that I got to do it now, honey. It's a tough deal.
There's no time like now. And then they're like, yeah, what about, that's what I said about the couch.
I have my my Weatherby direct deposits to Alaska Adventure, or for a hunt like that.
Yeah, you got a
Really
separate
do. I got,
account like set up.
Yeah,
That's
every
good.
every 2 weeks, $100.
That's good.
Smart.
That's a
That's
good
really
idea.
cool.
Look at you.
Yeah.
So
It
do
is-
you do 401k too, or just all to Alaska?
I'll do. I am
TMI.
I am,
You
no,
don't
I
have
am
to tell
planning
me
for
this.
the future on that too. So
It's a different kind of 401k plan. It's a 401
Yeah.
goat plan.
But it is true when you do hunts like this, you do realize like if you wait till quote you're retired and it's 20 years from now, like you might not be able to do that hunt. And that's what somebody I talked to. They said that they went back and got to go to a different time and said the first time they actually weren't in shape and had to quit. And so,
Oh yeah.
that's tough.
so that's
Yep.
yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be brutal. Really hard. So,
Brenda did Mountain Tough. Shout out for Mountain Tough.
yeah, big shout out for Mountain Tough.
And
Shout out.
did it help?
I didn't.
Oh, the
need
hard
it on
hard day
this
you were with the
hunt.
camp cook. Never mind.
I've been doing
But
it.
I
mule deer
was
hunt.
prepared.
I was
Yeah.
doing
I
it, and
was
it
prepared.
definitely helped.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All those lunges.
I was wishing I did it the day she was with the camp cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I should have done that Mountain Tough thing.
It's legit.
Yeah, when we packed out elk, and I immediately texted Wes and was like, lunges.
I appreciate your punishment right now.
Yep.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. That's awesome. It was
Elk Valley
Elk
Bighorn
Valley.
Outfitters for mountain goat.
Yeah. So look them up if you're
Yeah.
interested in a mountain goat. They're a great outfit.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Highly recommend
Awesome.
them. Good guys, Ryan and Sam. So their crew. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we could probably have a few more hunting podcasts this season because it's been a good one. We've got some more. We're not done.
We've
There's
got
some-
quite a
there's-
few left.
There's quite a
to
bit of
go.
hunting left to do,
Mhm.
which is awesome. So stay tuned for that. And got some new. We actually got to run because we got to go to
Yeah,
a
we have
product
another-
meeting
yeah,
to talk
another
about some
product
new
meeting.
products. So stay tuned for that too.
Wonderful.